Hello and welcome to the Aaron Roussos podcast. It's awesome to have you here today. Look, what I wanted to bring to you in this episode today was just a bit of an introduction to when someone says transmuting fears, insecurities, wounds, traumas, negative energies, doing your inner work, shadow work. I want to give you some of that spirituality that is a little bit woo-woo in a grounded, practical and common sense way that you can get your journey started in that game if that's what you want to do, or if that's where you are. And I guess to start with, some of the things that we could possibly transmute are things that we've accepted into our belief system that just aren't true, that are or that are no longer serving us, right? We evolve, we change. You might even look back in your life now and go, oh, well, I'm not the same person I was a few years ago based on the experiences that you've had. So you've had growth with exponential, but we don't stop really to reflect on the amazing human beings we are. And one of the exercises I give people that I'm working with in the numerology field, which is my biggest field, I have the most amount of clients, it's free, it's a win-win situation because I'm providing them with some information maybe about their character, the way they act, the way they can fix things that are not going so well in their lives. And likewise, they're reflecting back to me what's happening in society and communities in the world today, where everyone's at, where they're feeling, what's going on. So that's why I've never charged for it. And I believe that, something like that's a real big benefit to both of us, but also a study. It's a part of a healing. And I believe that true healing, while I would love to be doing this full-time as a job, I've always had to be a bit of a dabbler. I'm moving into that space at the moment, but I had to come up with, I guess, an energy exchange or a system that I felt comfortable with, and also something that couldn't be marketed to someone. I don't want someone to be marketed to and sold something they don't need, and even that could be in the form of a pop-up of something to do selling my numerology readings. So I tend to use things like synchronicity, right people turning up at the right time that need this information, or I'll be in different places all around Australia, set up shop, and we'll get going from there. And so what I've done in that process is, over the years, I've trialed and tested a lot of things with energy systems, and the best one that I've found is some form of energy exchange. So people that are unwell, the last thing they want to do when they go to get help is swipe their credit card straight up off the bat. And that's what you're all asking. That's what the world's asking. And it just doesn't seem fair that you have to pay even if nothing's going to be delivered. Now, I've gone and had some of the most full-on diseases, health conditions, incurable diseases, whatever. And every time I've gone to get help, I've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars up front. No one's really helped me, but I had to pay because it's a service. It's the way the economy works. So the energy exchange was something that I actually I found when dealing with different energy workers in spiritual, groups and stuff online and stuff. And they were like, oh no, and I sort of, like I do with everything, I pull it apart and put it back together and then try this and try that and see what works best. And what I found what works best is give you everything. No gatekeeping, not even a website to market to you. Just give it all away free. Now, I know no one does this on the planet, right? It's just not a done thing. And that's okay. That'll take you a while to get used to it, because in the past, if someone's giving you something for free, you've been suspicious, right? That's your human conditioning, right? That's where you're coming from, not from me. So what I've done is I've made it accessible, like I did want to do with my own healing, because I knew what it was like to have that disease. So I said, well, when I work this out one day, I'm going to give it away to anyone without any barriers, so that when they go along on their path, like I did, they get to a certain stage and they go, I can't do this anymore, and they find it. No barriers, no money, so there's nothing that can stop them, if they want to, from healing themselves of something that the rest of the world says is incurable. So then I was going along and I tried a system. It was part of a big group. I've had some big groups myself that I've since walked away from, because I find that organized spirituality has too much ego, marketing, money, and there's always a percentage of. It's like all walks of life have got good and bad. Okay, we're not going to sugarcoat anything here today. And so I was doing something in America. I advertised energy exchange based on a scale. Right, and I said, okay, if there's no way that you can afford even $1, but the information that I'm going to give you is going to help you in your life, then there's no charge, but you give me a testimonial based on what I gave you, how accurate it was, and how it helped your life. That's that's free, right? That's free for free. If and I did this last year with even homeless people. I'm like, well, you've got your welfare. You're going out and buying drugs and stuff, so you can afford $1. You can afford a few bucks. And I'm giving you not only a numerology chart reading or whatever, I'm giving you a consultation of a good hour, which is a little bit like a counselling session, which is all leading to helping you specifically. Now, that $1 is a clear energy exchange of gratitude. And if anyone has ever studied the law of attraction, we know that gratitude applied correctly can in fact multiply the law of attraction working and coming towards us. And so back when I was doing that American thing and people were going along, we were finding that these dollars, these very small amounts, were in fact amplifying and multiplying the law of attraction and abundance and the betterment of that person's life. And so I was like, wow, okay, we're on a winner here. And at worst case scenario, which is very rare, I would think was rare, and I do love a testimonial because I'm giving people information about their favourite subject and how to betterment, and a whole lot of secrets that's taken me a whole lifetime to study. So it's always going to bear this amazing fruit. It's always going to be a practical application to something they don't know how to do. You know what I mean? So it always works out for me. Always works out for me because of the quality of what I'm doing, and all I do is about the holistic human being and the system we belong to, and not just here on earth, but spiritually as well. So that's the way we got to that sort of agreement with that sort of stuff. Now, along the way, I've needed to dabble in the very thing that I'm now explaining to you in this podcast, okay? Which is free again. Even a simple comment of gratitude, just a thank you, would change your life. And you really, and look, I'm talking about everything I do I'm talking about a very specialized field, right? I know it's us holistically, and I know it's the system we belong to, and you're saying, well, that everyone's involved. But what I know, the wisdom that I have, that I've tested, that I've proven, and the discoveries that I've uncovered that are all within each one of us, is so specialised that I'm pretty much 1 in 8 billion people on the planet that shares this and freely and stuff. So I've had to dabble, and I've had to go and look at how do you transmute these things. I had a lot of experience with trauma. Now, there is a certain level of trauma that turns on a switch inside you and you can't turn that off, no matter what you do, okay? I had trauma within me, that $250,000 that every medical specialist in that area around the world for 20 years could not flick that switch off. All the therapies, CBD, exposure therapy, psychologists, psychiatrists, I did it all. And so, would you believe that after 20 years, a simple meeting of a kinesiologist on a day where I had one of my episodes with my condition cleared my problem that I had for 20 years in half an hour? Trauma. Real, deep-seated trauma. And so that in itself is something that changed my life. I speak on it quite openly and freely, and if I ever meet someone that's a kinesiologist, I tell them that story, because that really just instills in them that they're really on the right path and they're doing something amazing for humanity. Now, up until those 20 years, I was dependent on that other system, and that's why it's not freely advertised. One, the medical world and doctors don't understand it, even though they termed the language and the name that we call it, and that's the innate. Okay? Not only because they saw things in hospitals happening and, accelerated tissue growth and spontaneous remissions and diseases disappearing overnight, and they didn't have a name for it. They could see it, they could measure it, but they didn't understand it. So they said something innately has taken over. And there's thousands of case studies written all over the world right now. So if you have some traumas, or you're not sure if you have traumas and they're affecting your life, a kinesiologist is definitely where you go to. Now, outside of that, there's just, say, generalized fears, okay? Fear, like if you've ever watched a horror movie and then gone into your room and been fearful, that is a accumulation of your whole life's Hollywood blockbusters and horror movies and what you've seen, and fear indoctrination from the news, and when you were a child and you didn't understand fear and these things and were being presented and you were absolutely scared out of your wits, and ghosts and all of that, then you have fear, and no one's immune from it. I've met, some of the most successful people in the world have had it. I had a level of fear that even though we'd been told in our lives to face your fear, face it head on, it's the only way to, and all these things, even up until a couple of years ago, I was very fearful. And I guess one statement which is going to sum it up all in one, which again you can take on different depths, levels of depth, is that we fear what we don't understand. And so through that comment, we fear what we don't understand, I knew that line of inquiry to get rid of that fear was to go and understand everything. Ghosts, physics, history, the whole mechanics of everything, to be able to transmute those fears. So fears is about that understanding, but there is always a transmutation. There is always and they call it shadow work, or, inner work. There's all different names for it. And so sometimes, to make sure that that fear is gone, now I understand now what has caused it, right? I understand what these energies are, what they do, how it all works. And so my mind logically has made some sense of it and gone, well, that's it, fear, tick off. No, we're more than just a body. We're a holistic creature, and things don't work like that. So then we need to go and sit in that fear to dissolve it, to get that feeling and dissolve that fear feeling that we sit in. And it might take a lot of going and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And as each time it gets easier, each time it gets less, until it's completely dissolved. And now I can't even watch a horror movie because it's so unbelievable, because of what I know, that I laugh. And it sort of ruined a few things for me, right? It's ruined part of this false life that we're all part of, because when you learn the truth in stuff, which is really a core truth, because everything's partly the truth, you apply filters, and then once you've actually sat in the pain and dissolved it, on the other side there's nothing to be fearful of. Okay, facing those fears front on. Another thing that you might need to transmute is just insecurities, or wounds, we call them. Okay, now a childhood wound is not from your childhood. Okay, just make that very, very clear. It's called a childhood wound because you stamp up and down like a small child would, refusing to deal with it. It's struck a nerve. It's a chord, a sensitivity, and that's, you deal with it like a child. So it's a childhood wound. Now, some of these insecurities are based on experience over your lifetime. If you've got a history of your partners cheating on you, then you are going to be a little bit more sensitive if you get into another relationship, when you see the similar behaviors related to when, before and during they were cheating on you. So secrecy, random going out and things like that. And so they will trigger something in you that hurts, even though it's not them doing it to you right there and then, or it might not be, but depends how good your spidey senses are. You there get triggered, and so you have many wounds, sensitivities to those wounds, and you react differently because they remind you of terrible things. And a lot of times, depending on how terrible they are, we've actually tried to push them out, haven't we? We've tried to, they're so terrible, we don't want to think about them, we don't want to experience them, we push them out. And then we go out in our daily lives and something comes up and it triggers that remembrance. So you with me? It's pretty fascinating, this stuff, isn't it? So, so I didn't have to do this until just recently. The actual, it was like the final part of my little journey, spiritual awakening journey, whatever you want to call it. That sort of happened over the last 7 years, but it hasn't been until the last 2 years that I've had to go deeper and say, okay, and this is different as well. The period before this was me forgiving people that I'm never going to get an apology from, and healing. I was doing lots of inner work, healing lots of things that life lessons. I was wondering, why does this keep coming up in my life? Is it a theme? Is it a thing? How can I deal with it? So as we go along, there's different levels and healing on a spectrum, and all of them also impact us in different ways. So as I said, traumas, you really are a switch. You really need to go and see a kinesiologist. There is no one else. There is no psychiatrist and psychologist in the whole world that can fix permanently a trauma, right? That's a fact. I'm not telling you an opinion. This is a God-given fact, core truth. Seen it, done it with my whole life, and I can honestly, hand on heart, say that will change your life. That one thing, if you have trauma in your life, will change your life. And I've been back to a kinesiologist since with other things because I couldn't deal with them myself, and I didn't realize how much I had suppressed those traumas because of how much they hurt me. I almost gave myself, I gave myself amnesia with those subjects. They were that painful to even think of or bring up again. And so when you do see the kinesiologist, there is always tears. There is always recognition. They are the most loving people. They know they're dealing with a field, right? The innate, which is you. It's just, down the track, the innate is going to be the master healer within every one of you. You have no idea where that space is going, but for the next few generations, we're going to have to rely on these kinesiologists to help heal the world of trauma. Okay, we've had other tools and different things on earth like crystals to help with our own chakra balancing and our own balancing of karma and healing as well. But the deep-seated trauma kinesiologist is your only ticket. Okay? Some things, there's only one thing at the moment, at this stage of development on earth. The fears is an understanding of what's going on, and then sitting in that pain and transmuting it until it's gone. The insecurities, wounds can be seen as a form of shadow work. We also not only have wounds, we just have wounds from collectively from life, right? And so a lot of things, when you're in a relationship, you mirror each other, and sometimes subconsciously you mirror the other person's wounds and insecurities for them to be brought out and processed. And in lower, more dysfunctional relationships and more not so awakened settings, it just keeps happening, and we just get used to it, and we go, well, that's life. That's just life, is just dysfunctional. So not only can people mirror each other and subconsciously bring out these things to be healed, you can also be mirrored by life, and certain things will be presented in life for you to have to learn from and overcome, and also heal from life itself. And so there's a process, and I have explained the processes, but then to break it down into step by step and further by further, I was able to research it and find many people that were out there on different videos and YouTube and things like that, and I did, as I mentioned many a time, my whole spiritual journey has been for $1, and so the actual breaking down of it and each one doing it or whatever, you can go and find that information out there on your journey. And, watch the videos and learn how to sit in pain. And it goes through and explains everything. You might do it, you might go along in life again, then something happens, it triggers you, and you're like, oh, I thought I dealt with that. No, go back and do it again. And for me, just as a personal thing, which will have no relevance to any of you whatsoever, but you need to allow processing time, and you need to allow the back and forth to do this properly. I have spent 3 periods over the last 2 years, 2 for 6 months, 1 for 7 months, just doing that. Just transmuting fears, insecurities, and wounds, okay? The deep-seated trauma stuff, kinesiologist is your ticket. There is nothing else. There is no other professional. There is no other person, therapy, spiritual modality that will ever heal your trauma outside of someone that's a kinesiologist. Or they could use kinesiology. Okay, somatic. There are, but just keep that in mind, because I had such a profound feeling. I'd hate for you to all run out and people say, oh yeah, I can do what a kinesiologist does, and then you not have your trauma fixed. For me, it was very easy because my condition was so bad that randomly, without any notice, without any warning, without any trigger, I would pass out. Any day, any time, anywhere. And it was that bad. And it was from a deep-seated, aggressive, violent trauma from when I was a child that I don't even remember. Okay? So there wasn't even a trigger. I could be in the most beautiful thing, holding hands with my girlfriend, walking down the street, and just bang. And that's the way. And so obviously when I've seen all these doctors and CAT scans and cardio, MRI, everything, specialists all around the world, everyone trying to say, yeah, they'll help me, they'll fix me with this problem. And it wasn't a physical problem. But when I saw this one kinesiologist for half an hour, I've never passed out since. And it's now been 26 years without that. So I know for sure. My thing is obviously a very clear-cut, deep trauma with certain problems. Other problems, traumas, in fact, that have more complexity to them, over longer periods of time, like PTSD and things like that, will require sessions, right? But you will know. You will know whether it's gone or not, and there's nothing else that can turn that switch off. So that's a little bit about the transmutation, inner work, shadow work, these practices. They do change your life. Not being fearful now, turning off the news, having a filter for the world that you see, makes for a much better life. I'm experiencing life a lot better at the moment. The wounds enables me to love freely, unconditionally. Couldn't do that before. Every single relationship would have been affected by those wounds and triggers. So I've never been in a position to be free of that. So all relationships are better. All relationships are fantastic. And look, it's still the last bit of remnants is still there of a few little things, but the world is mirroring to them. And if I get into some, with people and relationships and things like that, subconsciously they're brought to the fore for me to deal with if there's much left. But as I said, I've spent a lot of work on it just recently. I hope that really helps. As I say, all those individual things, there's lots of information outlined. If you are going and looking for a kinesiologist, they're all over Australia at the moment. They're all over the world at the moment. And there's associations, and there's, the lady that did this with me back then just happens to live where I live in a hometown, but I got to meet her in another part of Australia. And she's head of an association. I was, the last time, I obviously couldn't go back to her, but I didn't know where she was. but I got recommended by another kinesiologist, someone who was very experienced, a gentleman on the Sunshine Coast, and unbelievable. So he was asking my innate muscle testing, and it said, oh, this problem comes from 1, 2, 3, gets 13, okay? 1, 2, 3, 7. What happened, Aaron, when you were 13 years old and 7 months? And so I had to think back and look at it, and I went, oh my God, my mum gave me away, got rid of me at that age. I was living with my mum. My parents had been separated their whole life, and she said, I can't handle you anymore. You have to go and live with your father. So there was an abandonment issue. But the innate, that they muscle test inside each and every one of you, knows everything about you, even if you don't remember the times, the dates, the thing, and they go through different charts to map things, to ask the questions, to work at everything out. So it's really amazing stuff. You really should. So I hope this helps. Go and, chip away at it. Allow time for processing. Don't be so hard on yourself. It's, it's not like normal learning stuff. Once you get it, you've got it forever. Once you've changed it, it'll change your life forever for the better. Everything is for the better. So yeah, I hope you really enjoyed that. Thank you.